Hello, and welcome to the Narrowing Path, Walking the Spiritual Walk. My name is Steve Van Einstein. Thank you all for joining me again tonight for another reading from James Allen's Daily Meditations. Mm, This, of course, will be fresh to you and fresh to me, meaning this will be my first time hearing it or reading it right here on this podcast with you. So you'll get my genuine response, reactions, observations, and what I relate to about the reading. So I'm looking forward to it. It's September started out and really has given us a um, broad view yesterday, right? And kind of an overview of what James Allen's premise is here. If we look at it, evil thoughts, this is the end line from yesterday, evil thoughts and deeds produce conditions of suffering. Good thoughts and deeds determine conditions of blessedness, right? It goes down to the basic, going back to as a man thinketh, that, we change our thoughts and we'll change our circumstances and we'll change our actions. And everything in our lives and right where we are is the direct result of what we thought and done previously. So I'm looking forward to the 5th. Let's see where this takes us. So here we go. This is September 5th reading from James Allen's Daily Meditations. Man's power is limited to, and his blessedness or misery is determined by, his own conduct. Here we go. Life may be likened to a sum in arithmetic. It is bewilderingly difficult and complex to the pupil who has not yet grasped the key to its correct solution. But once this is perceived and laid hold of, it becomes as astonishingly simple as it was formerly profoundly perplexing. Some idea of this relative simplicity and complexity of life may be grasped by fully recognizing and realizing the fact that, while there are scores and perhaps hundreds of ways in which a sum may be wrong, there is only one way by which it can be done right. And that when the right way is found, the pupil knows it to be right. His perplexity vanishes, and he knows that he has mastered the problem. In life, there can be no falsifying of results. The eye of the great law reveals and exposes. I like that. I like that a lot because that was one reason I liked math growing up. I really enjoyed math and mathematics and just getting into some advanced stuff even in high school, and I just thought I liked it because it was a right answer a lot of the time. There was a right way to do a problem and there was a right answer. And I liked that simplicity. Um, Sometimes not knowing the correct formulas was perplexing, but when you realized the formula and you knew how to effectively and proficiently solve a problem, regardless of the problem's specifics as well. So it's the style or type of problem rather than the exact problem. Once you learned how to solve that style of problem, you could solve all of them. I enjoyed that. I cherished that because it was like a key to life, to that type of scenario. And that's what we're talking about here is this opening line that man's power is limited to and his blessedness or misery is determined by his own conduct. So your power resides in your own conduct, your own thinking. It's you. Are you trying to serve yourself or are you trying to serve God? Because through serving God, through serving the God of your understanding, whatever you might call it, creator, source, mother nature, whatever it might be, right? Society. When you're serving that, there's power that comes through that, right? It's not just serving yourself for selfish ends. It's a whole different concept. It's a whole different thing. So that's what we're kind of talking about here is finding the equation for life. And that's what he's using mathematics to illustrate that. So I like this reading. I like it a lot for personal reasons, but that's okay. So, yeah, man's power is limited to, and his blessedness or misery is determined by his own conduct. So, how you behave, meaning who do you serve, yourself or truth, will determine the amount of power you have in your life and your blessedness or your misery. It's up to you. You are the master of your own circumstances. All right, for the main body of it, though, life may be likened to a sum in arithmetic. Yeah, here we go. It is bewilderingly difficult and complex to the pupil who has not yet grasped the key to its correct solution. And this was me. This was me before finding recovery. This was me before finding spirituality. This was me before finding a God in my understanding. This was me trying to figure out life to suit myself when I wasn't even realizing that's what I was doing. And I became miserable, depressed, anxious, angry, and desperate and hopeless. I couldn't figure it out. I was bewildered, as it says, because I had not grasped the key to its correct solution. Then he goes on to say, but once this is perceived and laid hold of, once I had been introduced to a design for living, a different way of thinking, a different way of going through life, it becomes astonishingly simple, as it was formerly profoundly perplexing. So we would go from extremely over involved and complicated and intricate and to the nth degree to an extremely simple solution. Not necessarily easy all the time. It gets easier as you do it, but simple. It becomes astonishingly simple, as it was formerly profoundly perplexing. Some idea of this relative simplicity and complexity of life may be grasped by fully recognizing and realizing the fact that while there are scores and perhaps hundreds of ways in which a sum may be wrong, there is only one way it can be done right. It's a pretty big statement, isn't it? Right? So to be in service of God and others, whatever your God may be, to practice these principles in all our affairs, to practice living a different way of life, works every time. But the problem, before you get to that understanding, is the fact that there's scores, maybe hundreds of ways to do this wrong, maybe thousands, more so, probably millions. And actually, there's probably an individualized way to do it wrong for every single person on this planet. But for every single person on this planet, there is one way to do this right, and it works every time. It's bulletproof. It's infallible. If you fully commit and dedicate yourself to this way of living. That's a huge statement. How much power is in that? How much simplicity, wisdom, frustration, possibly even because life seems so complicated with all these moving parts, but you just simplify it down to that spiritual living and living a principled life and a virtuous life. Suddenly, life straightens out pretty quick. How amazing is that? I was just reading As a Man Thinketh with somebody, and it talks about it's in the speed and ease at which your life straightens out when you start to live this way of life is directly proportionate, I think. Forget the exact wording, to the willingness you have to apply these principles and virtues in all areas of your life. So you are the only thing standing in your way holding on to those old behaviors that is causing any issue. If you would just embrace the one way it can be done, right? And he goes on here to say, and that when the right way is found, the pupil knows it to be right. I do. I'll say right now, my own personal experience says that that is the truest statement ever. When you finally realize it's right, you know it. There's no blind faith anymore. There's no having to trust in the sense of unsurety. It's a knowing. It's a simple knowing. I know this is the way it works because it's not my way. It's not my opinion. It's not my ideas. It's my experience. It's been a lot of other people's experience. These are not my ideas. These are not a new concept. This is not an original thought. This is a tried and tested way of living for years upon years, decades and centuries, most likely. Not most likely, for decades and centuries. But we keep seeming to forget that. His perplexity vanishes, and he knows that he has mastered the problem. What's the problem? That's the question you gotta ask. I always come back to ego. I was the problem. I was always the problem. Because the world didn't change for me. I changed and the world looked different. So given that little piece of information, that means that problem was me. And I do believe I've mastered the problem, not because it never resurfaces, not because it's gone forever or healed permanently, but because I've been given a way to live that will constantly be the solution to the problem. Every time it will work for this problem, which is me. All right, now the closing line for this for today. In life, there can be no falsifying of results. The eye of the great law reveals and exposes. That means you can't beat the system on here on this. Like these spiritual laws are true and will become self-evident. No matter how much you struggle and try to bury your own intentions or anything like that, you can't fake these things. There will always be repercussions. There will always be the effect of the cause of the cause that you have brought into this world, right? We were talking about that yesterday. Action, there's a reaction type of situation, right? Everything is an effect with a cause. What are you putting out into the universe? What are you putting out into this world? And those effects will always be found. Those effects will always be felt, regardless of our desire for them to be hidden away and squirreled away. So, all right. Well, there we go. That's the end of the reading for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Um, just a personal favorite almost on this one. I appreciate the metaphor used. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the rest of September looks like and what we discuss. So I'll be back again tomorrow. Until next time, thanks.